Rob Robertson. This is your home for life hacks, life lessons, all things positive and building a better you. I've been absent for the last couple of months. If you've been paying attention to the Warrior Healing Center page, you know I've been dealing with a back injury that managed to crop itself back up again. And it's something I've been dealing with for a lot of years, and that's going to be a lot of the subject of my discussion tonight is going to be that same said back injury. But I hope this is finding everyone doing well this evening. I hope you've had a good couple of months. We're neck deep into summer. Monsoon season has officially arrived. Unfortunately, we're not seeing much out of the monsoon so far. It's turning into another non-soon. The weather seems to be extremely hot and extremely muggy, and that leads to extremely sticky. And unless we get some rain fairly soon, I fear that's going to be the way the rest of the next 6 weeks or so are going to go. Just a lot of hot and muggy and no water to go with it. Unfortunately, what little bit we have gotten has caused my yard to start turning somewhat green, and I fear I'm going to have to cut it this weekend. So I've got that on my plate of things to do, as if I didn't already have enough. So anyway, but as I alluded to begin with, been out with nursing a back injury that I've had for 30 years now. Actually, it'll be 30 years on August 23rd of next month that I've been dealing with this on and off. Back in the first part of May of this year, it started off with a little bit of discomfort in my upper back, which managed to move its way down into the center of my back, where some of the damages that was done 30 years ago is quite prevalent. So initially I thought, well, I'll just take some time off and it would correct itself. Unfortunately, that didn't work. I took the first couple of weeks after the initial symptoms started from the end of May until the first part of June. Didn't do very much. I actually ended up going to the emergency room. Got a Toradol shot and some other pain meds. Continued to get worse, so I contacted my PC over at the CBOC here in town. They had me come in and do some x-rays, and sure enough it confirmed that once again at the T9 vertebrae, which was broken whenever I was in service, was once again broken, and apparently that was caused by the stress from the original deformity from the original break 30 years ago. Put enough pressure on that the vertebra actually snapped again. I had some problems there, and then I'm having some neck problems. However, at this point, I do appear to be at least somewhat on the mend. Down to I was having basically all 7 days a week being bad in May and June, and so far going into this month, I've gotten that down to just a couple of days of bad days a week. And so far this week has worked out pretty well. I am going to physical therapy again, doing some work with them to get things straightened out, and I did manage to make my way back to the gym this week to start working on the personal rehab program that I already had before from my physical therapy routine or physical therapy visits I went to back in 2018 for the lower back. What I've learned this week is I got a lot of work to do, that's for sure. My back's managed to work itself into pretty bad condition again, and but the nice thing is I should be able to come back to doing the show now every couple of weeks and get back to visiting with you fine folks. So that's kind of where we're at on that. I've got an MRI scheduled for next week on the 24th, which is Monday. I have two scheduled for that day. I've got one with dye and one without dye to try to narrow down maybe a little bit more about how bad the actual damage is. And I was not aware, I hadn't paid any attention, but they had not done any. And always in years past, it had always been like they would do x-rays on my back every couple of years. And the reality was, when I went in for this set of doctor's visits, it turned out that I had not had any x-rays done since 2010. So it had been 13 years since anybody had looked at my back and to any deep level. And so obviously the arthritis has progressed. Again, revealed 2 new fractures. New in the sense that they're back, old in the sense that they were in the exact same spots that I had the fractures previously. So it is creating some issues for me going forward as far as what I'm going to be able to do and what I'm not going to be able to do. I have been talking to him about asking for my first exception at work, and that's a reduced working schedule. Haven't made any final decisions on that. I kind of want to see what comes out of the MRI and how well the physical therapy works. I am working with VetLinks on my own personal VA case, which has been going on for quite some time. I assume that I'll probably be getting a increase on that. So if that ends up being the case, that it does get up to 100%, I may go ahead and look into retirement sometime next year. But those are all, who knows? Who knows what the future is going to bring, and who knows how I'm going to feel about things a month from now. I mean, it's definitely been a challenge going back, like I said, 30 years ago. So August 23rd, 1993, at about 10:30ish in the morning, stationed on board USS Louisville out of San Diego, California. Had some work to do on board ship. Needed to move a reasonably heavy piece of equipment. I'm going to say it probably weighed around 200 pounds. It could certainly be lifted, but at the time, more often than not, you'd moved it with a crane. And so we need to move it. And USS Louisville was a submarine, by the way, a nuclear submarine. So right in front of the conning tower, the sail, which is the big protrusion that comes out of the middle of the boat, was a piece of gear that I was required to work on. And we had taken the steel, what they called a window from in front of it, out and had laid it on the deck and topside, and it needed to be moved from that point to another point for some other work that needed to be done. So we had talked to the crane about when they could come down and move that piece of equipment out of the way for us. They said it was probably going to be closer to, this was probably about 9 o'clock in the morning. We were talking to them. They said it was probably going to be closer to 3 or 3:30 in the afternoon before they could come down and move it. So that was going to keep us on board ship until they could come down and move it. And of course, obviously being young sailors, we wanted to get our work done and get onto our get out of there as soon as possible, because the chief we had at the time was like, well, if you're not doing anything, I don't want you to do it here, so get your work done. As soon as your work's done, kind of out of here. So that was foremost on our mind, was getting to the beach as quickly as possible. We wanted to get this job done. And so the guy I was working with had moved this piece of equipment by himself on a couple of different occasions. He was just freakishly strong. And so we figured between the two of us it wouldn't be no big deal to move it. And so I got on one end of it, he got on the other end of it, picked it up. That wasn't a problem. Like I said, again, it probably weighed a couple hundred pounds. So the weight's fairly evenly distributed between the two of us, and I didn't notice any real strain from it or anything like that. So we proceed to move from where it was at up towards the conning tower back along the top of the ship. And as we're walking backwards, as I'm walking backwards, he's walking forwards. I'm doing the part that's walking backwards. I managed to get to trip over where the number one mooring line came over to the ship and tied off to what they call a chock. And as I tripped, my legs got a way up underneath from my body this way, so the entire weight of that I was carrying actually ended up going from being supported by my legs to being supported by my back. Now, 100 pounds may not sound like much, but in a sharp jerking action, it can be quite a bit. And so my theory has always been that what happened was which your spine is designed to do to some degree, is it expanded and it came back, and when it did, it slammed back together and fractured the T9 vertebrae and then one of the vertebrae up here in my neck. And when I was talking to physical therapy this week, they asked me how I originally got hurt, and I told them, and as I'm explaining what happened, the physical therapist said, "Yeah, what happened was," he kind of confirmed he thought that's what had happened as well. So anyway, right after the incident, I got my feet, didn't stumble all the way, didn't fall all the way. Feet got back up underneath me. We set the piece of equipment down. I didn't notice anything else that day and went back to the barracks that night. Well, actually, I think we ended up leaving, after we got the work done. So probably left and went to the beach or whatever. Anyway, I remember got up the next morning, started getting ready to go back to the boat, getting dressed, and I started noticing some pain and tightness in my back. Went down and saw the ship's corpsman. Ship's corpsman gave me some ibuprofen or vitamin, Motrin as they called it then, or vitamin M, as I've heard several people mention it. And then figured that would be the end of it. By the time I got up the following day after that, it had progressed significantly worse. And so by this point, I'm hunched over. I can barely walk. I can, barely do very much of anything. The ship's corpsman, or doc as we called him, continued to feed me ibuprofen for the next week. It did not get any better. Finally, after 8 days, he decided to send me up to Squadron, and then Squadron sent me over to Balboa Hospital, and they took some x-rays. At that time, they couldn't find anything wrong with my back. And so this was in 93. I didn't get out until 96, but I ended up doing basically some short duty time, even though I was attached to a seagoing command. I got assigned to barracks duty, did some work for an admiral for a little while as a driver, just various other things I've worked for Squadron for on and off for about 6 months, I think. It's been a number of years, obviously, since this happened. Before I went back to the boat, never was really quite right for the rest of the time I was in. My back was just, in and out of pain for the next 3 years. And even after I got out, the first couple of years after I got out, I still continued to experience problems. And they were pretty steady, and I would go see my family doctor, and he would usually give me a shot or whatever, hook me up with some other anti-inflammatories that would get back under control. This would go on in a cycle for the next 20 years, basically. 15 for sure, I guess from 96 to 2010. And I could go a couple, 3 months without any problem, and then it would flare back up, or I'd have a flare up for a couple of days in between that time. Just constant. Finally, in 2010, it flared up really bad, and I've kind of been dealing with it as a bad flare-up ever since. I've had some stretches where it got somewhat better, but for most of the last 13 years, on a daily basis, I've had level 7 or level 8 pain. Really starting at about 2018 when I got with some much better physical therapists who got me on a much better program. Over the last 5 years, I've managed to ramp that down to usually a good day. A bad day for me now is about a 4 or 5. I'll have some days where I get it down to around a 3 or a 4, I guess. But this latest problem has made me reevaluate what my 10 is. The pain is dead center in my back, and so we're trying to come up with some strategies and stuff right now for me to deal with it. But it definitely has flared back up with the renewed brakes, and not real sure where this latest ride is going to take me. And you notice I don't have any notes tonight, no big story to tell you, no direction to take everything in, and just kind of relaying what the history of what's happened up to this point to get me here, and because it serves as a background for what I've become over the last 30 years. I mean, on the one hand, I managed to complete my education. As those of you tuning in a lot know, that I managed to get my master's degree this year, and I've continued to be try to be a positive person and work on positive things and be involved in positive activities. But at the same time, it's a daily fight, and one that's gotten to be very, very tiring on me, very trying. And so, I come to group here every Saturday. I attend the Saturday morning veterans peer support group here, which I think is called Headspace and Timing, I think is its official name. And for the longest time, I was coming because I kind of felt like I help others. Right now, I'm kind of coming because it kind of helps me. Because with my current condition, it's really limited what I can do. And I had real big dreams of working on my doctorate at this point, but I've decided to kind of put that on hold for the moment because I'm not real sure exactly what the future holds. So I'm really kind of in a holding pattern to kind of figure out, what to do next. Now, a lot of the reasons why I do some of the things I do is more for me than it is for anybody else. And kind of the same thing with doing this show. A lot of it's about me just being able to be a sounding board for myself. Hopefully somebody out there can find some nugget of help in it. And so, the big question is right now, well, what are you doing right now, Rob, to cope? What are your tools? We talk about this a lot of group, is what are the tools in your toolbox to kind of help you get through all this. Well, I'm pretty fortunate in the fact that my wife is very understanding about what's going on. She probably gets a little bit more fired up at the VA about it even than I do, and I get pretty hot. Although ultimately, in some ways, it's kind of hard for them to blame them because the initial injury and the initial problem got caused by the Navy and poor and delayed care in the initial part of the injury that's kind of led to this point. At least at this juncture right now, I can honestly say I think the VA is doing everything that they possibly can for an injury that's been around for like I said, 30 years. They're trying to steer me in the right direction. They're trying to get me to the right to be able to get taken care of. Hold on, I'm trying to get some of this stuff off because I think some people might be putting up some good stuff taken care of. Hey Travis, what's going on, buddy? Wow, and you get other stuff you don't want. It's definitely been trying. So like I said, I got my wife. I have my job, which is super important to me. Being able to get out every day and still work. Even if I do decide to retire next year, which is a distinct possibility that I may go in that direction. If I get to the 100 percentile, as my case gets reevaluated, I may go ahead and do the SSDI, but I'll just find some other ways to volunteer or do some other stuff to still be useful to the public and get out there and take and kind of keep myself focused on something. For me personally, I have to have some kind of mission and some kind of goal every day. I'm not, I don't want to be that kind of person that just gets up. My big flip today is playing with my PlayStation. I went through that for a number of years, and it's just not a good way to be. It causes you to dwell on things that you probably shouldn't dwell on. You got to have some useful cause, I think, to keep yourself going. Now, whether that's because I'm volunteering here at Warrior Healing Center, or whether or not maybe I try to go back and maybe try to help out at one of the local schools, or just help out with veterans issues, whatever that case may be. I'll figure it out. But definitely not just going to go just because I end up retiring, go into the house and setting. That's not going to happen. I know my wife will be happy because the house will be clean. She could tell you the last time I ended up injured and ended up taking off about 7 months from work, the house was pretty much so spotless. Definitely be taking care of that. But anyway, so I get out and I talk to people whenever I get a chance. Like I said, through group, that's one thing that I do. Still try to get out and spend time with friends. That's another thing. I mean, you have to find those tools and those things that work for you, that make you, that help you deal with whatever your current situation is, whatever it may be, whether you're trying to deal with a mental illness, whether you're trying to deal with a physical illness, whether you're having financial problems, you're having problems at home, whatever that case may be, you got to find, whatever those tools are that work the best for you, that help you get through. And, trying to find those tools is not as hard as what you think. I mean, you got your phone right here. You can do, all kinds of research on, research right here to the tip of your fingertips to go through and find some useful tools that are out there to help you figure out how to deal with your issues, and also to find help. Again, there's a group here every Saturday. I think they're still doing the group on Thursday nights, which starts about 6:30. The one we do here on Saturdays, I know, starts around 9:30. So please feel free to stop into either one of those. Some people it's reading. I know my wife deals with a lot of her stress through crafting. Her big thing is crocheting, but I know that's also an outlet for her to deal with her stress is doing the crocheting thing. Yes, for some people, it's climbing on their motorcycle and going for a nice long motorcycle ride, or even a short one for that matter. A lot of mine is Planet Fitness. I'll be honest about that. About the length of time I can go is about an hour before I start getting tired, or the physical, effects that I have start to kind of catch up with me a little bit. But I can do an hour about 3 or 4 days a week. And like I like to say, whenever I go in there, it's just me, the music, and the machines. I put my headphones on. I got a playlist I hit, and I'm good for an hour. It just gives me an hour just decompression, where there's just nothing, like I said, but me, the music, and the machines. And I just kind of shut out the world. Of course, right now it's tough road to hoe. I just went back this week. Sunday was my first day. Yesterday was my second day. I took tonight off. Got physical therapy tomorrow, so I probably won't go back again until Thursday evening. But right now, just about everything on me hurts from the last couple of days. You taking 2.5 months off at this age is just, whoa, boy. Well, that was definitely a wake-up call yesterday. But anyway, back to tools you can use. In the moment, if you're kind of feeling overwhelmed by things, just take a step back, do some deep breathing, close your eyes, focus on the simple things. From what I tell people whenever they're feeling overwhelmed, what's the simplest thing you can do? Breathe. Just breathe. Start with something simple. Just breathe. And get that down, and then move on to whatever the next thing is, the next simple step is. I'm always reminded of the movie, and I think I might have mentioned to those of you who've watched before, the movie Apollo 13, when they're on their way back to Earth, and they're realizing all the things they have to go right in order for them to land the spacecraft and not be killed. And the whole amount of things that they need to do is just overwhelming. And finally, Tom Hanks looks at the Bill Paxton and Kevin Bacon, and I can't remember what their characters' names are, and says, "You know what?" He said, "We've got 1,000 things to do, and right now we're on number 6. Let's focus on number 6, and then we'll worry about number 7, and so on and so forth." And that's kind of how you have to do things sometimes. You got to figure out, what's the simplest part of this thing I can take care of. Let's start with the simple thing first. And so, in a lot of ways, I realize I'm kind of rambling tonight because I didn't have much of a plan. I just kind of wanted to come in and talk, kind of get back on track here a little bit, let you guys see my face, let you know I'm coming back. I will be back again on the 1st. Hopefully to have a guest then. I got to get back with her and see if she can come in. But anyway, what was the simplest thing I could do when the pain first started up? Well, I cut back on my activities. Okay, let's see if that doesn't correct the problem. Well, that didn't work, so I increased my medications, and that didn't work. I went back to my TENS unit, and that didn't work. And so then it was time to, after I'd expelled everything that was in my arsenal, then it was time to start looking for things that were more complicated and more intensive to try to get the problem taken care of. So what did I look at next? I got back with my doctor. What do we want to try next? And so she had me come in and do x-rays. Obviously, the next step up. then going to do physical therapy, the next step up. But I started with the simplest thing first, which was just get some extra rest and see if that doesn't work. Unfortunately for me, that it did not. But at that point that I was doing that, I didn't realize that the vertebrae was broken again. And of course, I got the MRI next week again, another step, another level of trying to figure out how to get this thing resolved. And we'll see what the MRI comes back with. And I'll keep you guys posted. I should have some kind of answer by the first, find out what's going on there. But again, you start with the simple and work your way forward. And sometimes that's just going to be breathing. Go out with friends, go see a movie, play a game. And don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking being on a video game or something like that. I mean, some people find that very relaxing, helps them kind of to get centered and there's nothing wrong with it. You just don't want to turn it into 3 months of sitting around playing, solitaire, and you're kind of like, what happened to May, June, and July? You don't want that happening either. There's got to be some kind of progress to what you're doing, and if those tools that you're using aren't working, it's time to find more tools again. Do some research on the internet, figure out what works. That's one of the great things I like about coming to group on Saturday mornings, because we all share things in group that work for us. And then so you can make a decision while you're in there. Well, let me try that. It worked for this guy. Maybe it'll work for me. Now, maybe it will and maybe it won't. Not all things work for all people. And a lot of it maybe comes down to what are your interests? What do you like to do? Maybe you need to step back and figure that part of it out. And I've had people that they call it mad cleaning is what they call it. They get frustrated and upset with things, and they go clean things. And I think the reason that is because it's something they can kind of control, and in a very short period of time, they can see results. If you go clean something, usually in a relatively short period of time, you'll see the impact of what you're doing, whether that's cleaning floors or wiping down furniture or just reorganizing stuff. You can see those results. If you get a chance, there's a video of a Navy admiral. I'm trying to think of what the heck his name is. McCraven, I think, talking at the University of Texas's graduation ceremony. I want to say it was around 2006 or so. And one of the things he talks about on there is, start off the day by making your bed. Because then if the rest of the day goes to crap, you can at least come home to a made bed, a bed that you made. It's your first success of the day. And, then your next success might just be brush your teeth. But, you got to take your victories where you can get them. And then maybe it's just getting yourself to, I got to be honest with you. Sometimes my victory for the day is just getting myself to work. The rest of the day, I'm just a total, cluster, what. But at least I managed to get myself to work in some way, shape, or form. And after that, I may just be a total disaster. But at least I was able to get myself in, get myself up, get myself cleaned up, get myself dressed, and get in there. So some, like I say, I take my wins where I can get them, and sometimes that's where you got to take them from. But anyway, if you get a chance, I'm pretty sure it's Rear Admiral McCraven, Texas University commencement speech. The whole speech I think he gives is about 20 minutes, but if you can find that little 6-minute block that he talks about make your bed. You might even be able to look it up under that Rear Admiral McCraven Make Your Bed speech. It's definitely worth a couple minutes to sit down and check that out. And it's another thing. Something that works for me. Now I listen to a lot of podcasts. It's kind of become a passion of mine is listening to them, and I in full candor, I try to steal things that I hear on my podcast and try to integrate them into here as far as style and delivery and everything. And of course, I've been doing this for about 6 months now. I've got a long way to go in listening to other people that have been doing this for a number of years. So I'm no expert at it, but I like listening to podcasts. That kind of gives me a break from the norm. And I don't just listen to the political ones either. Listen to a lot of ones on, in full candor, I listen to a lot of ones on UFOs and mysteries and murder mysteries and things like that. And I listen to several military ones. I like to listen to the Jocko podcast. Those of you know him, Jocko Willink. You've heard me talk about him before from Echelon Front. He does the Jocko podcast is really good. Battle Line podcast with Chris Tonto Peranto. Some of you might know him from 13 Hours. Another great one, he and Ian Scott have one called the Battle Line podcast, and they have guests in that are prior service military people. Listening to their stories and the things they've been through is also very helpful for me because it reminds me when I come to group and I listen to that the things that have happened to me are not unique, that there are other people out there that have suffered and kind of been through some stuff. So again, that's just another thing that I do personally to to kind of help myself work through whenever I'm having some tough issues. As I do that. Another thing I do, reading. I do a lot of reading. Right now I'm working through the Cotton Malone books by Steve Berry. Going back and kind of reading some of those again. He deals a lot with historical fiction, mysteries, kind of like what you'd find with the Da Vinci Code or Inferno. The Dan Brown, kind of mentality on storytelling, Indiana Jones type, stories. So, for me, again, it's just a matter of finding things that give me some enjoyment and allow me to kind of get away from it all. Going to the movies, another thing, go see a movie, get with some friends and go see one. I got some friends I really like to hang out with. That I met here this last year. Hopefully you won't mind me mentioning them. Daniel and Terry Jackson, both really just super people. We go hang out, me and my wife go hang out with them from time to time. We just went and saw Indiana Jones's Dial of Destiny with them, and I think all of us had a good time. It was on the 4th of July. We went over to the American Legion and had a bite of lunch, and then shot over and went over and saw the movie with them, and I think all four of us had a great time. And so you just got to find things that help you kind of cope with your issues. Again, this doing this show is another way that I cope with my issues. Sometimes it's not so much about what I'm saying to you; it's what I hear for myself to help me get through this. So, I just hope maybe somebody out there can find a nugget of truth in what I'm talking about. So. I know I've kind of rambled around tonight. I had some different things on my mind. I wanted to get everybody up to speed on, kind of what's going on with my back. Right now, I guess the best way to put it is I'm kind of in a holding pattern. Kind of want to see what transpires with the MRI and see where that kind of puts me at. And then probably won't make too many aggressive moves until after the summer's over with. I do have a hearing on September 6th on a nod that I had with the VA. Going to get that taken care of and just kind of see where I'm at. Sometimes you gotta you go along so fast sometimes, and with things happening that sometimes you just gotta say, hold on, wait a minute, stop. I need to take a time out here. That's kind of where I feel I'm at today. Is I just kind of need to take a time out on things and kind of let some things develop and see what comes out of them. I think pushing right now is not going to do me a whole lot of good. Right now it's just a matter of keeping my stress, my frustration, and my emotions under control for the next couple of months until some things kind of resolve themselves, and then I kind of get back after it again. But until that's over with, I'm going to come back and start doing the show again. I'll be here on August the 1st right now, as far as I know. I got a guest that I was supposed to have in studio back at the end of May, and because of this, I end up postponing. Unfortunately, that person, and if she's watching, she knows who she is, because I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. I was so caught up in what was going on with my own pain and everything else that I forgot to text her and tell her, hey, look, I canceled for the night. And I felt really bad because she showed up down here and I was not here. So I will accept full responsibility for that screw up. Definitely I'm capable of them. So anyway, I appreciate your patience tonight, listening to me. I'm going to cut it a little bit short because my back's starting to sing to me pretty good from sitting here, and I kind of need to go someplace and get in a little bit more comfortable spot. So I will see you back here on August 1st. And like I said, I'm going to try to work on my in-studio guests. If not, I will be here, be a little bit more organized that night, and um, have a little bit sharper topic on point. So until the next time, dream big, dare to fail, because fortune always favors the bold. I'll see you then. Y'all take care.